Hey guys, tonight we try something a little different. You're not drifting into a royal court or sailing with pirates or sipping spiced wine by candlelight. No. Tonight, you wake up face down in a pile of itchy straw, your nose full of dust and goat. A sliver of gray dawn slips through a crack in the wooden wall, and church bells are already tolling in the distance. Welcome to rural England, somewhere around the year 1287. You're a peasant now. Congratulations. The air is damp and smells like a mixture of old hay, boiled turnips, and something that might once have been a chicken. Maybe. Your back aches before you even sit up. Something about sleeping directly on packed earth for most of your life tends to do that. Your hands are already blistered from yesterday's labor. And guess what? The fields don't care. They need you again. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how far across the globe this one reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You roll to your side and cough, not because you're sick, though you probably are, but because the smoky residue from last night's fire still clings to your lungs. The hearth never really dies down. It just sort of sulks overnight like a moody ember with abandonment issues. You swing your legs out from the scratchy blanket, and your feet land in something cold and damp. Not water, not exactly. Just floor. Dirt, possibly chicken droppings, could be yours. It's best not to think too hard. Outside, the church bell drones again 5 times this time. Prime hour. Time to pray, or time to haul yourself upright and begin surviving, which in this case are oddly similar things. You dress in the same tunic you wore yesterday, and the day before, and probably since you turned 12. It smells like damp wool and ambition gone stale. There's no mirror, of course. Why would there be? But you catch your reflection faintly in a pot of water. Your face is sunken, your hands are cracked, and a piece of straw has somehow become part of your hairstyle. You leave it. It adds character. You nod to your sleeping brother in the corner, except he's not sleeping, just pretending, hoping someone else will feed the animals first. Classic move. You tiptoe over your grandmother, who is absolutely sleeping in the same room. Everyone is. One room for 8 people, plus a dog that no one remembers getting. Now out the door. If it can be called a door, it's more of a large wooden flap that creaks like it has opinions. You step into the yard, and the cold bites your ankles. Morning fog wraps the village like a damp cloak. Smoke curls lazily from the few huts that have fires going, and the chickens are already glaring at you. Honestly, it's a bit rude. You head for the animals first. The cow looks miserable, and you relate. You start to milk her. She kicks the bucket. Literally, you say nothing, because words are rationed like bread. The pig squeals for slop. You give it half moldy cabbage and something that used to be porridge. He looks offended. You look worse. Somewhere behind you, your father yells something about the wheat tithes. You nod. You don't know what he said, but nodding feels safer. Your body is already tired. Not sleepy tired. Bone deep, eternal life, weary tired. And it's only sunrise. You remember something vaguely today is collection day. The reeve will come to weigh your grain. He will say it's too light. He always does. He's not wrong, but still, it stings. You glance toward the manor on the hill, the Lord's house. It's made of stone, with smoke rising from its many chimneys. Somewhere in there, someone is eating breakfast off a plate. A real plate. You think about it for a second too long. Historians still argue whether most peasants in this period had any real concept of class mobility. Could they dream of a better life? Or was hope itself a luxury item? You don't have time to wonder. You have to cut firewood. It's your turn. You grab the dullest axe in the village, not by choice, it's the only one, and start swinging. The wood is wet. Of course it is. Everything's always damp, even your soul. A single historical record from a 13th century manor roll in Kent notes a peasant fined for not showing up to chop wood. You think of that man now. Was he sick? Did he run away? Did he ever find dry socks? You finish chopping. 3 logs before your arms scream. You ignore them. Screaming is a privilege of muscles that don't already burn all day. Back inside, your younger sister is sweeping the floor with a stick. It doesn't really do much, but it makes her feel helpful. She smiles at you. You smile back. It's one of the few moments in the day that doesn't feel like drowning slowly in mud. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is waiting. A crust of bread. Possibly yesterday's, possibly last week's. The beans are warm-ish. There's a bit of salt. You close your eyes, take a bite, and pretend it's roast chicken. Outside, the bell tolls again. tierce hour. Work time. As if you weren't already working. And with that, your real day begins. You step outside, and your feet are immediately swallowed by the sludge that is the village path. It's not mud, not really. Mud is romantic. This is more of a fermented mixture of manure, crushed straw, stagnant rainwater, and disappointment. It clings to your toes like it's auditioning for a job. You don't even bother wiping it off. Why would you? You'll be knee-deep in worse soon enough. As you trudge toward the fields, the chill gnaws through your woolen tunic. It's thin, stretched from years of wear, and smells faintly like goat. You pull it tighter around your shoulders and catch a whiff of damp earth. That might be you, might be the field. At this point, you and soil are nearly indistinguishable. The village is stirring now. Thin trails of smoke rise from thatched roofs. Children chase chickens. Chickens chase bread. And one dog appears to be barking at a rock. Life in perfect balance. You pass the smithy, and the blacksmith, your cousin, sort of nods. He has all 10 fingers, which is rare. He's lucky. You wave back with your one reasonably clean hand. Your other hand is already holding a dull hoe, which you'll use to pretend the weeds are getting removed. Spoiler, they will not. As you reach the outer edge of the village, the fields stretch out like a cold green ocean. They're not yours, of course. They belong to the Lord, like everything. But you're expected to farm them with the kind of enthusiasm typically reserved for winning the lottery. You don't win anything. Except blisters. You win lots of those. You reach the first row, and the sun is barely climbing over the treetops. It's orange and hazy, as if even the sun doesn't really want to be here. You sigh. The earth is wet and stubborn, just like your youngest brother. You jab the hoe into the ground and begin. Historians still argue whether the 3-field system truly improved life expectancy or just slightly prolonged the suffering. You remember someone saying that once? You think it might have been the village priest right before he asked for a chicken donation. The 3-field system means that 2/3 of the land are used for crops, while 1/3 gets to rest. Rest. What a delightful concept. You wouldn't know. By now, your hands are slick with a mix of sweat and soil. You feel a blister forming, which is exciting. It's like a surprise party under your skin, just pain instead of cake. A cow wanders near the edge of the field and eyes you. You're not sure if it's admiration or judgment. You keep your head down. Your neighbor Tom is a few rows over. He waves. You wave back. He sneezes. You flinch. Not because of the sneeze, but because he didn't cover it. If the rumors about illness spreading by breath are true, well, you're doomed. Again. One quirky note from a 14th century monk's diary mentions peasants rubbing garlic on their feet to ward off sickness. You consider this for half a second, then remember, you don't even have garlic. Just socks made of wishful thinking. The sun creeps higher, and so do the bugs. Midges flies something that might be a very angry beetle. They all start swirling. You swat. They dodge. It's an ancient dance. You pause to wipe your forehead and spot the manor house far off its stone walls, bright in the morning light. It looks smug, probably because no one inside has to dig up turnips or chase sheep through gorse bushes. You look down at the earth. It's full of rocks. Always rocks. You dig one out, and another takes its place. Sometimes you wonder if the rocks breed at night. You remember a story your grandmother told about a man who once found a coin while plowing. He bought bread, a cloak, and never came back. She always trailed off before the ending. You like to imagine he became a merchant or a pirate or something that didn't involve waking up with straw in his ears. Your stomach growls loudly. Breakfast didn't last. It never does. You think of that one time last harvest when the Lord rewarded you with a smoked herring. You still dream about that fish. Now the sun is high enough to bake your shoulders. You're sweating, but your fingers are cold. It's a very specific kind of miserable, like your body can't decide if it's freezing or boiling, so it just settles on aching. You hear someone cursing. It's a universal peasant language. Grunts, sighs, and the occasional blast it. It could mean a tool broke, a pig escaped, or someone just stepped on a rake. You don't even look. Misfortune is the village soundtrack. A group of children passes by carrying baskets of dung. For the fields, obviously. You nod in respect. That's a hard job. Worse than yours. Slightly. You work for another hour, or maybe 3. Time melts here. The only clock is the sun, and sometimes the yelling of your father. He appears now, waving his arms and muttering about the church tithe. You nod again. Nod and keep hoeing. Your back is now a question mark. Your fingers have gone numb, and your knees have started a small rebellion. It's a peaceful protest, just pain and clicking sounds, but it's building momentum. You straighten up for a moment and gaze across the field. You see your family, your neighbors, every one of them hunched, sweating, bent into the soil. A human chain of effort that feeds the manor, and maybe, if lucky themselves. You breathe deep. The air smells like damp hay and stubbornness. And then bells. It's sexed hour. Midday. That means one thing. You get to walk all the way home again. You shuffle back toward the village legs, aching like they've been stuffed with rocks. The kind you just spent the whole morning trying to dig out of the Lord's fields. Each step squelches, every joint clicks, and your knees have now officially joined the rebellion. If they could write a charter demanding better treatment, they would. The path home isn't so much a road as it is a suggestion. There are tracks from the ox cart chicken prints, and one large, suspicious puddle you avoid out of instinct. You once saw a duck vanish into it. No one talks about that. The sun hangs low and heavy in the sky, casting long shadows over the village. You pass the tanner's shed and hold your breath. The stench is something between rotting leather and fermented regret. You wonder if anyone ever truly gets used to it. Historians still argue whether medieval people genuinely didn't notice the smells anymore, or if they just resigned themselves to suffering through every breath. You reach your home, if you can call it that. The wooden frame leans like it's contemplating a career change. The thatched roof is patchy, and there's a new hole where the last rain punched its way in. You mentally add patch the roof to your to-do list, somewhere between don't starve and try not to cough blood. Inside, it's dim and smoky. Your little sister is poking at the fire with a stick that might once have been a broom. Your grandmother snores softly from the corner, wrapped in a blanket that predates memory. You duck under a beam and head toward the hearth. There, waiting on the table, is lunch. And what a feast it is. A bowl of something grayish, thin, watery pottage, likely made of barley leeks and hope. There's a slice of coarse bread, so dense it could double as building material. You stare at it for a moment, then chew. Slowly, carefully. Your teeth aren't exactly in mint condition. You once cracked one on an undercooked pea. The taste is not good, but it's food, sort of. Mainstream historians agree that the medieval peasant diet was monotonous, but not entirely deficient. You got calories, mostly from grains and beans, but not much else. Vitamins were an accidental luxury. Meat, maybe on holidays. Dairy, if the cow didn't hate you. Fresh vegetables, only when the weather didn't ruin everything. And of course, no spices. Well, maybe salt, if the tax man didn't take it first. Your father sits across from you, slurping like it's soup from heaven. You nod at each other. It's not conversation exactly, but it's acknowledgement. In this house, that counts as bonding. Your mother passes a jug of water. You drink. It's lukewarm and tastes faintly of clay, but it doesn't make you sick. So you consider it a victory. Someone knocks at the door. You freeze. It's the reeve. You know this because only 2 types of people knock the reeve, and people with bad news. Often they're the same. He pushes in without waiting for permission. He smells like sweat leather and petty authority. In his hand is a small set of scales and a scroll. The scroll is longer than your arm. You know what that means. It's time to pay your dues. He eyes the corner where your family keeps its sacks of grain. Technically, those sacks belong to the manor. They always have. You just get to look after them until someone shows up to take most of it. You help your father heave the first sack forward. The reeve scoffs. He says it looks light. Of course he does. He always does. He measures out the grain, mutters something about short weight, and scribbles angrily on his scroll. You want to point out that the crop failed this year, that the frost came early, that you've already given half your food to the church, but you don't. Because peasants who complain sometimes end up fined, flogged, or mysteriously missing their one remaining chicken. The reeve leaves with 1/3 of your grain and none of your gratitude. Outside, you hear the church bell again. The 4th toll today. None's hour. Time to go back to the fields. But first, a moment of stillness. You sit for a second and let the heat of the hearth soak into your bones. It's smoky. It's cramped. The dog is chewing something unidentifiable under the table, but it's still the warmest you've been all day. You glance around the room. The floor is packed dirt. The walls are mud and timber. Your family sleeps on straw stuffed into old sacks. You share space with mice, maybe a rat or 2, and definitely more fleas than you'd like to admit. Quirky side note. Some medieval households kept pigs inside during winter to stay warm. You once tried this. The pig stole your bedding and bit your brother. You haven't tried it since. There's a small wooden cross over the hearth, carved by your uncle, who had 3 fingers and no sense of symmetry. It's crooked. You love it. Then your mother hands you a cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside a wedge of coarse oatcake and a piece of hard cheese. Dinner on the go. It's not generosity. It's necessity. The sun doesn't stop just because your stomach's full. And your stomach is never full. You rise, wipe your hands on your tunic, and head out again. Back into the cold, the mud, the noise of children arguing with geese, and the low groan of someone discovering their ox has wandered off. The path to the fields is even more trampled now. The cows have added their opinions in the form of dung. You step around it mostly. The reeve passes by on horseback. You scowl internally. He's not supposed to ride in the village, but rules bend for those who enforce them. As you reach the field again, you hear Tom cough behind you. A long, hacking sound. You glance back. He waves like it's nothing. It probably isn't. Or maybe it's everything. You tuck that thought away. The sun has shifted again. The soil feels heavier. Or maybe you just do. You put the oat cake in your mouth, chew slowly, and press the hoe into the earth once more. The oat cake sticks in your throat. It's dry crumbly and dense enough to qualify as a blunt weapon. Still, it does the job barely. Your jaw aches from chewing, and the hard cheese doesn't help. You chase it down with a sip from your wooden flask filled with watered ale. Everyone drinks ale, even the children. The water's too risky, and besides, the ale numbs your thoughts just enough to keep going. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve and get back to work. The sun's directly overhead now, which means your shadow has taken the form of a very unimpressed blob. You dig, you hoe, you sweat. Repeat. You'd be amazed how many hours you can pass just removing the same weeds that somehow keep reappearing like vengeful ghosts. A bee buzzes past your ear, which is mildly exciting. The insects here have seen more drama than any minstrel. You duck as a cloud of midges attempts to hold a family reunion around your head. You swat miss and continue working. Across the field, Tom is arguing with someone again, likely over tools or space or turnip theft. You don't engage. The last time you tried to mediate, you ended up with a hoe to the shin and a week's worth of silence from your mother. She said it was good practice for Judgment Day. You stop to stretch your back, and it makes a sound like an old cartwheel. Not ideal, but expected. Your arms feel like sacks of rocks tied to your shoulders. Your legs are wooden posts. You are, in essence, an animated barn. The work never ends. You think you're almost done, but then remember, there's the flax field next, and the sheep pen, and the ditch that's been flooding again, and the fence someone's goat chewed through. Historians still argue whether peasants truly experienced time the way we do, hour by hour, or whether they simply lived in one long stretch of obligation, broken up by bells and bruises. You look up. The manor house looms in the distance, a stone monster with real glass windows and roofs that don't leak. You've never been inside, of course. The closest you got was when your cousin dropped a jug of milk on the Lord's stairs. He wasn't allowed back for weeks. He still talks about the floor tiles, though. Apparently, they were smooth. You pull a rock from the earth and toss it aside. It joins a pile of other rocks. One day, you'll build a shrine to them, the patron saints of back pain. And then, thunder. Not in the sky, in the stomach. Yours. It grumbles in protest. You ate maybe 200 calories today, and you've burned through them before the sun even hit its stride. Your thoughts wander. Roast meat, spiced stew, fresh apples. None of those things are in your immediate future. Or any future, really. But you remember something. The festival. It's a few days away. A church feast day. Which means bread, cheese, maybe even meat. If the manor is generous. If. That if does a lot of heavy lifting. You work faster. Not because it helps, but because stopping means thinking. And thinking makes everything worse. You reach the edge of the field where the hedge has gone wild. It's your job to trim it back. You grab a hand sickle, a dull one naturally, and start hacking. Thorn branches claw at your sleeves, trying to rip through the wool. One manages to draw blood. You hiss and suck your thumb. Quirky side note. Some peasants believed that nettle stings were good for circulation. You wonder if hedge scratches count. If so, you're going to live forever. Behind you, someone calls your name. You turn to see Edith, the baker's daughter. She's balancing a basket of bread on her hip and wearing a frown like it's part of her outfit. She says her father wants help carrying sacks of flour from the mill. Of course he does. You nod, because saying no is not something peasants do. You follow her back toward the village. The flour sacks are heavy, awkward, and seem to multiply. You carry one, then two, then three. Your arms start to quiver like reeds in the wind. Edith doesn't thank you. She doesn't need to. You're expected to help. Everyone is. It's what keeps the village from collapsing. That and fear. You drop the last sack in the storage shed and lean against the wall, chest heaving. Edith offers you a scrap of warm bread. You take it. It's chewy, slightly burnt, and the best thing you've eaten in weeks. You sit for a moment, savoring it. The bread tastes like ash and yeast and hard work. You lick the crumbs from your fingers. Back outside, the sky begins to shift. Clouds move in like uninvited guests, dark and low. You smell rain. Not yet, but soon. You rush back to the field just in time to see your brother chasing a runaway sheep. Again, you sigh and help. Together, you corner it near the hedge. It stares at you with contempt, then walks away like it did you a favor. It starts to drizzle. Great. You grab your hoe and keep working. The earth turns sticky, then slick. Your shoes, such as they are, begin to sink. The mud hugs your feet like a desperate relative. Rain soaks your tunic. It drips down your back, cold and unrelenting. You shiver. Everyone does. It's communal misery. Tom sneezes. You all ignore it. By the time the bell tolls again, Vesper's hour, you're drenched, covered in mud, and vibrating with exhaustion. You head home in silence, dragging your tool behind you. Your hands are raw. Your eyes burn. Your soul has checked out for the day. Inside the house, the fire's low. Your sister is trying to cook something. It smells like onions and desperation. You sit on the floor, back against the wall. Your mother hands you a cloth to dry off. It's already damp. You use it anyway. No one talks. No one has the energy. You breathe. You ache. You wait for dinner. Dinner arrives with all the fanfare of a brick being dropped on a damp pillow. Your sister places a wooden bowl in your lap, filled with what might generously be described as stew. Mostly turnip, some wilted greens, a few beans clinging together for warmth. The broth is thin gray and steaming faintly, like it's trying to convince you it's food. You don't complain. You eat. Slowly, because your jaw still aches from lunch. You sip the broth, ignoring the occasional crunchy surprise, usually a bit of grit or an uninvited insect. Protein, technically. You remind yourself of that as you chew something that feels suspiciously like twig. The room is quiet, except for the slurping and occasional cough. Outside, rain taps the roof in a gentle rhythm, like a bard, with no rhythm and fewer songs. Across from you, your grandmother mutters a prayer. You don't catch the words. You're not sure she even says the same ones anymore. She just prays in loops, hoping something sticks. Once you finish your bowl, you lick the spoon, then the bowl, then glance around to see if anyone left anything behind. No luck. Everyone is equally hungry, equally desperate, equally skilled at making hope look polite. Your father shifts on the bench and announces that the Manor Reeve has doubled the tithe this year. No one is surprised. That's the thing about bad news. In a medieval village, it never shows up alone. And it's never unexpected. Historians still argue whether the increase in tithes during lean years was due to genuine need or sheer exploitation. You, personally, vote for both. After dinner, your brother plays a tune on his reed flute. It's off-key, and half the holes are stuffed with lint, but you listen. Because music, even bad music, is better than silence that reminds you of tomorrow's labor. Someone knocks over a jug. Your sister cries. Your mother hushes her. Your father mutters something about Saint Cuthbert. The fire pops and spits like it has opinions. You crawl into your corner of the house, a straw mattress tucked behind a woven reed mat that kind of pretends to be a curtain. Your sleeping area is shared with your youngest brother, who kicks in his sleep, and the dog who farts in his. You lie on your side, wrapped in a threadbare blanket that smells like turnips and ambition. You can feel every straw poking your ribs through the cloth. You sigh. Then a sound. Boots outside. Voices. You freeze. It's the tax collector. At night. That's rare. Usually they wait until morning to ruin lives. But this time they're looking for someone. Someone who didn't pay last month's grain quota. Not you, thankfully, but someone in the next hut over. You listen as they knock, then enter. There's shouting, then silence. You don't hear the door close again. You close your eyes. Pretend you're asleep. Everyone else is doing the same. The unwritten rule. If you don't move, they don't see you. Eventually, the boots walk away. You exhale. Your heart thuds. Not from fear. Well, yes, from fear, but also from knowing that one day they will come for you. No one escapes forever. Not here. You roll onto your back and stare at the dark ceiling. Somewhere up there, spiders are planning something. You don't care. At least they don't demand grain. Your thoughts drift to food, to warmth, to the stories you hear sometimes about people who leave, who go to towns, who become traders, bakers, soldiers, even clergy. You once met a traveling monk. He said he'd walked from Winchester. You asked what it was like. He said, wet. You found that weirdly comforting. Still you dream. You dream of owning a piece of land, just yours. No tithes, no reeves. A small garden. A pig. Maybe even a real bed. You laugh at yourself. Quirky fact. Some peasants believed that dreaming too big could bring bad luck. You decide to dream medium. Maybe just a garden. Maybe just a chicken that doesn't hate you. Suddenly, your brother kicks your shin in his sleep. You yelp. The dog growls. Your mother whispers for everyone to hush. It's bedtime in a peasant household, which really means time to hope no one rolls into the fire, steals your blanket, or accidentally elbows your nose. You shift, tug the blanket tighter, and try to find a soft patch of straw. There isn't one. Your back aches. Your legs twitch. But your eyes get heavier. Just as you begin to drift, the dog lets out one final sigh. Long, dramatic, resigned. You whisper to him same, and sleep finally comes. Sort of. But it doesn't last, because not 2 hours later, the church bell tolls. Again. Matins, the middle of the night prayer hour. You groan. Even God doesn't let peasants sleep. The bell rings with a dull insistence, dragging you out of what barely qualifies as sleep. You open one eye. It's still pitch black. Time, in this moment, feels like a cruel rumor. The bell keeps tolling, slowly, steadily, like it's enjoying itself. Matins, the midnight prayer, supposed to be for monks. But sometimes the local priest insists the village should join. Communal salvation, he called it. You called it unnecessary cardio in the cold. Your mother is already up her shawl, wrapped tight, muttering as she lights the hearth. The fire groans back to life. You sit up, slowly. Everything in your body protests. Your neck feels like it turned to stone. Your spine may have left the chat entirely. You fumble for your cloak, a heavy wool thing that's seen better decades, and wrap it around your shoulders. It's damp. Everything is always damp. You swear even the air here has mildew. Your little brother moans but doesn't get up. He's young. He still gets to fake sleep. You envy that. You shuffle out the door with your parents into the biting night air. Fog coils around your ankles like it's sizing you up. Stars are scattered above, but the moon hides behind clouds. The village is silent, except for the occasional cough and the soft crunch of feet on frozen earth. The church looms ahead, squat and dark, except for a flicker of candlelight through its tiny stained glass window. The image is of Saint Edmund. He looks tired too. You push open the creaky wooden door and step inside. The smell hits you old stone incense and sheep grease, because, of course, someone brought a sheep in here again. Inside, figures huddle together in pews, eyes half-lidded, heads bowed not out of piety, but exhaustion. The priest stands at the front, reading from a Latin text none of you understand. It's not about comprehension. It's about obedience. You kneel. The floor is cold. The cold climbs your knees and settles into your bones. You clasp your hands and try to focus, but your stomach growls audibly. You think you hear someone chuckle. probably Tom. Jerk. The priest drones on. Something about mercy, redemption, judgment. You zone out somewhere between eternal damnation and deliver us from temptation. You haven't been tempted in years. There's nothing here to tempt you. Quirky aside, some medieval churches installed chains near pews, not to restrain sinners, but to tie up animals people brought indoors to keep warm. You glance to your left. Someone has done exactly that. The goat looks more alert than you do. Eventually, the priest raises his hands. A sign it's almost over. Everyone exhales. Quietly, of course, out of respect. Mostly respect. Some relief. You shuffle out as dawn begins to hint at the horizon. A pale silver line stretches across the sky, promising light and more work. You trudge home. You're shivering. Your hands are numb. You consider crawling into the hearth, just for 5 minutes. But the day has already begun. No rest for the weary, or the muddy, or the perpetually taxed. You reach your hut and duck inside. The fire is now roaring, a rare welcome sight. Your mother hands you a steaming mug. Barley tea. Barely tea. But it's warm. You wrap your fingers around it and let the heat crawl into your skin. You sip. It tastes like boiled cloth, but it's something. You hear movement behind you. Your sister is already getting dressed. Your father is checking the tools. No one talks about how tired they are. That's just the baseline. You get up, slowly. Your joints crack. You grab a crust of bread still left from last night and tuck it into your satchel. Time for another round in the fields. Today, it's the south plot, the worst one. The ground there is rocky, the slope uneven, and the drainage non-existent. You remember the time your cousin slipped there and ended up face down in cow dung. You laughed until you slipped in the same spot. You reach the plot and begin. Hoe in hand, shoulders bent, staring at the same patch of earth you've been battling your entire life. Historians still argue whether peasants found peace in routine or simply lacked the energy to resist it. You jab the soil, pull weeds, scatter seed. Repeat. Your back burns. Your fingers blister anew, and your legs go numb in phases. Hours pass. You think. You don't know exactly what time it is, just that the sun is now fully above the hills, and you can smell smoke from the baker's oven. Maybe you'll stop by. Maybe he'll toss you a burnt crust again. You'd thank him like it was gold. But for now, the work continues. You look down at your hands, cracked, calloused, covered in soil. You don't remember what they used to look like before they became tools themselves. Then, something odd. A bird lands on a nearby post. A tiny robin, bright red chest. It tilts its head at you. You stare at it. It stares back. For a moment, there's no work, no hunger, no aching knees. Just you and the bird. Then it chirps, fluffs its feathers, and flies away. You smile, slightly, then back to the hoe, because the fields won't plow themselves. The sun climbs higher, and with it comes the buzzing chorus of midday flies. They swarm around your head like tiny, judgmental angels. You swat half-heartedly and keep working. The fields are relentless, and so is the schedule. You pause to stretch your spine, unfolding with a series of crackles loud enough to attract a curious cow. She stares. You stare back. She blinks. You lose. There's no real lunch break. Not here. You pull the crust from your satchel, hard as wood now, and gnaw on it while leaning on your hoe. It doesn't taste like much, but it's enough to quiet the gurgling symphony in your stomach. And then you cough. Once. Then again. It's dry, sharp, and sudden. You glance around. No one notices, or pretends not to. Coughing makes people nervous. Illness is no joke. Not because you'll be cared for, but because it means lost work. And lost work means less food. Less food means weakness. Weakness means, well, you've seen what happens. You once watched a man try to harvest barley with a fever. He collapsed 3 rows in. By sunset, he was gone. His wife said it was the wind. You know it wasn't. Still, you keep going. Because here, sick days are for the dead. You try to remember the last time you weren't sore. Not just sore from work, but that full body fatigue that makes even blinking feel like a chore. You can't recall. You keep digging your hands sticky with sweat and dirt, your thoughts drifting between, I hope the oats sprout, and I hope I don't. Nearby, someone sneezes, loudly, then swears, then sneezes again. You and Tom exchange glances. Neither of you says anything, but the same thought hangs in the air. Not again. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants had any concept of germ theory, or if they simply accepted illness as divine punishment. You suspect it was both, or neither. Maybe they were just too tired to care. Quirky anecdote. One folk remedy involved tying a dead toad around your neck to cure fever. You'd try it honestly if you had a toad. or a string, your mind drifts again to warmer times. The summer you went to the village fair and saw a juggler drop all his knives. The crowd still clapped. You think about that juggler sometimes. Maybe he became a minstrel. Maybe he got stabbed. Either way, it sounds better than this. Your shoulder twinges, and you switch arms. The hoe now feels heavier, like it's absorbing your will to live. You name it, regret. Across the field, you hear a scuffle. Tom and another worker are arguing again. You catch fragments, my turnips, your goat that fence. Classic peasant drama. You ignore them. The field needs finishing before sundown, and you still have to check the sheep. You sigh and plod onward, dragging your feet through the thickening muck. The rain from last night left pockets of slush that suck at your boots with every step. You wonder if this is what quicksand feels like. You wouldn't mind sinking a little. You catch sight of the church tower in the distance, its crooked bell still visible against the pale sky. You mutter a quick prayer, not for salvation, but for strength, or a break, or bread that isn't 40% mold. A breeze stirs the wheat, and for a moment, it almost looks beautiful. Golden stalks swaying in rhythm like dancers. Then you step on a thorn, and the poetry dies. You hobble to a tree at the field's edge and sit. Just for a moment. Your muscles thank you. Your back sings praises. Your lungs gulp the air like they've been drowning. You rest your head against the bark and close your eyes. A minute, maybe two. That's all. You hear footsteps. Someone's coming. You groan and get up. Back to it. No time for weakness. Not here. You check the sheep next. 4 of them. 1 limping. 1 missing. Classic. You follow the trail of trampled grass over a low ridge and toward the woods. You hope you find it before the sun drops too low. Wolves are a real thing. Not bedtime stories. Not out here. Eventually, you spot it stuck in a thicket, bleeding indignantly, like you're the one who made it stupid. You free it. It bites your arm. You forgive it. You don't know why. By the time you return to the village, your arms ache, your feet are soaked, and your face is crusted in what may or may not be sheep spit. The bell rings again. Vespers, evening prayer. You skip it, not because you're rebellious, but because you're physically incapable of kneeling. You reach your home and collapse onto the bench. Your mother hands you a cup of broth. It's thin, hot, and tastes faintly like cabbage and wood smoke. You drink it in silence. The room is warm in that hazy, smoky way. The fire crackles. Your siblings argue over who gets the soft corner of the bedroll. No one wins. You stare at the ceiling. A spider has made a home there. You envy its confidence. Then, outside, a noise, a shout, a crash. You tense. Someone's been caught stealing grain. Again. And the Lord's men are not merciful. You stare at the door and wait. You don't move. No one does. Outside, voices rise. One angry one pleading, the rest indifferent. The footsteps are heavy. Not peasant feet. These are boots. Leather. Clean. Probably oiled. Probably worn by someone who's never once dug a ditch. Then a dull thud. A cry. And silence. You inhale through your nose and stare harder at the fire, as if it might tell you how to feel. It doesn't. Your sister burrows deeper into the straw. Your father scratches his chin and mutters something about should have known better. Your mother stirs the pot again, though nothing's really cooking. You all hear the same thing. You all say nothing. This is what happens when the taxes aren't paid. And they're never paid. You remember last year when old Matthew tried to argue with the reeve about the grain measurement. Next thing you knew, his cottage had mysteriously burned down, and his goats were reassigned. You sip the last of your broth. It's gone lukewarm. The heat faded the second the shouting started. Historians still argue whether justice in feudal villages was more about order or fear. You're not a historian, but you know the answer. You step outside, needing air that doesn't smell like cabbage and smoke. The village feels like it's holding its breath. Darkness is falling, and the sky has turned from dull gray to a deep, inky blue. Stars blink to life, one by one, like they're cautiously checking if it's safe to show up tonight. You see a figure dragging a cart toward the manor. On it, sacks of grain, and someone's cloak. You don't want to know whose. You kick a pebble. It doesn't move far. Like everything here, it's weighed down by dampness and dread. You wander past the well, nod at the blacksmith still hammering, despite the hour, and make your way back to the cottage. There's nowhere else to go. Not really. Inside, your brother is snoring, loudly. You envy his talent for sleep. Your grandmother whispers another endless prayer. Your father is already flat on the straw boots still on. Your mother stares into the fire like it's telling her a story no one else can hear. You sit by the hearth, close your eyes. You dream of bread. Again. Then the door creaks open. It's the reeve. He doesn't come in. He doesn't have to. He just leans in and says one sentence. Don't forget there's an extra tithe this week for the bishop. Then he's gone. You want to scream. You don't. Because peasants don't scream. They sigh. They swallow it down. They add it to the long list of things that must be endured. You look at your mother. She nods once, already calculating what can be spared, what can be sold, what can be hidden without getting caught. You lie back on the straw and stare at the ceiling again. The spider has finished its web. It catches a fly. Efficient, unapologetic. You close your eyes. Next morning comes too quickly. The bells don't wake you this time. Your back does. It seizes as you try to roll over. You curse quietly and sit up, rubbing the soreness from your neck with hands that feel like someone else's. Your sister hands you a hunk of oat bread. It's stale, dry, and slightly warm. A rare luxury. You eat it slowly, savoring every gritty bite like it's a roast feast. It's not. But imagination helps. Then you lace up your boots, what's left of them. The leather is cracked, and the left sole has given up entirely. You wrap some twine around it. That'll do, maybe. You head out. Today you're assigned to repair the road, which really means filling in the same ruts that the Lord's cart will carve up again tomorrow. But it's essential maintenance, as the reeve says. You call it pretending to matter. You grab your spade and join the others. The road is muddy, full of holes, and looks like it's been stomped by angry giants. You shovel pack tamp. Repeat. You see a merchant pass by on a horse. He doesn't look at you. Why would he? Your background noise. Mud with a face. He smells like cloves and leather and coin. You smell like sheep and wet wood. You wonder what it's like to wear shoes with soles. Historians still argue whether peasants admired or resented traveling merchants. You feel both. Deeply. Quirky detail, some villages believed seeing a red-bearded stranger on a Monday was good luck. You don't know why. You've never seen one. Only Tom and his beard is more accidental than red. You finish the road repair, such as it is, and wipe the sweat from your forehead. Your fingers are blistered. Again. You don't even flinch anymore. It starts to rain. Of course. You trudge back, soaked shoulders, hunched eyes on the ground. Dinner is boiled roots. Again. You eat without comment. Later that night, your father tells a story. It's about a man who escaped, moved to a city, became a baker. You ask if it's true. He pauses, then says, "It's true enough. That'll do." You wake up to the sound of your brother retching outside. The hut smells like smoke and wet wool, but his sounds cut through all that sharp, panicked, gut deep. You throw off the blanket and step into the morning light, still dull with fog. He's hunched over near the edge of the path, pale and shaking. He says it's nothing. Something bad in the stew, maybe. You nod, but you don't believe him. No one ever admits they're sick. Not here. Because if they do, they risk being left behind. You help him up and back inside. Your mother clucks her tongue, but doesn't stop wrapping herbs into a cloth. She hands you a strip to lay across his forehead. Chamomile, maybe, or something that just smells nice. Either way, it's all you've got. You get no rest. The day's already started. Today, you're not working in the fields. Today is court day. That doesn't mean a grand hall and powdered wigs. No, it means a wooden bench in the manor yard, the reeve in a borrowed robe, and a line of peasants praying they're not called next. You trudge toward the manor grounds. The mud is thicker here because, of course, the manor is at the highest point, and everything unpleasant rolls downhill. You join the cluster of villagers in the yard. Everyone's standing, just so, trying not to look too relaxed or too nervous. Both could get you noticed. You keep your eyes down and your hands still. The first case is about a pig. Apparently, someone's pig got loose and ate half a garden. Accusations fly. The reeve asks no questions. He finds the owner a week's wages and moves on. Next, a fence dispute. 2 families, 3 opinions. 1 broken fence. The reeve sighs, finds both parties, and moves on. Then it's Tom. He's accused of disrespecting the manor's oxen. No one knows what that means. He claims he only muttered that one looked sad. The reeve says sarcasm is unbecoming. Tom is fined a basket of eggs and a day of labor. You want to laugh, but you don't. Then comes the theft. A young boy, barely older than your sister, caught stealing bread from the baker's cart. His hands are trembling. He doesn't speak. The baker is red-faced and loud. The reeve scowls. Historians still argue whether medieval justice truly believed in rehabilitation, or if it was mostly about setting examples. Today feels like the latter. The reeve waves the boy's father forward. A fine is issued along with public shaming. The boy is whipped. Not hard. Just enough. Enough to remember. You look away. Then your name. You freeze. It's about the missing grain from last week. Not yours, but from your household. You step forward, head bowed. The reeve reads your name, then your father's, then accuses you both of under-reporting. You try to explain about the rats, about the mold, about how the bag had split. The reeve frowns. Your fine one, chicken, and a future promise of double weight at the next collection. You nod. What else can you do? You walk back to the crowd. Tom pats your shoulder. You're not sure if it's sympathy or survival instinct. Court continues. A woman is fined for overstepping harvest boundaries, a man for allowing his dog to bark during Mass, a child for breaking a clay jug in the manor kitchen. Everyone pays. No one wins. Quirky fact. In some villages, stealing moss from the Lord's trees was technically a crime. You think of that now as you watch a child pick at the roots near the manor fence. You say nothing. Finally, the court ends. The crowd disperses in silence. You walk home with your head low, feeling both rage and resignation. You know the fine will sting. The chicken was one of your best layers, and she's gone now. Just like that. Back at the hut, your brother is worse. He's feverish, rambling. Your mother fans him with a piece of woven straw. She looks at you. No words. Just worry etched deep into every line of her face. You go out to fetch water from the well. The bucket is heavy. The crank sticks. You nearly drop it. Your hands shake. You carry it home, sloshing cold droplets down your legs. The dog follows you, tail low, sensing something's off. Inside, the fire crackles weakly. You ladle water into a cup and bring it to your brother's lips. He sips. Barely. The day continues. You try to rest, but your ears are tuned to every breath he takes, every silence between. You pray. Not out loud, just inside, to anyone who might be listening. You remember a charm your grandmother taught you, tying knots in a thread while whispering names. You find a scrap of twine and try. But you forget the words halfway through. The sun sets. Dinner is forgotten. The village bell rings once, distant. Like it too is tired of this day. You sit by the fire, your brother's hand in yours. And you wait. Your brother's fever breaks just before dawn. He stirs in the straw, drenched in sweat, mumbling something about a black dog and a field of onions. You squeeze his hand. His fingers twitch back. Alive. Weak, but alive. You exhale a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. Your mother nods silently, pulling the blanket up around his shoulders. There's no cheering, no celebration, just quiet relief, as fragile as a spider web. It could snap at any second. You step outside to greet the morning, or what passes for it. The sky is a dull pewter. Dampness clings to everything like regret. You stretch your arms. Your back pops. Your legs ache. The usual. And then it hits you. You have to go to work. Again. Because even when death hovers at your door, the wheat still needs tending, and the chickens still need feeding. And the manor doesn't care if your family barely made it through the night. You grab your tool, a rake, today for the drying field, and trudge toward the common land. You pass other villagers, their faces gray in the morning mist. No one talks. Everyone just moves, like ghosts who forgot to die. The field greets you with wet grass and muck. Your boots sink instantly, of course. You give up trying to stay clean 5 steps in. Your job today is to turn the cut hay so it can dry evenly. Simple, tedious, backbreaking. The kind of work that erodes you from the inside out. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants saw labor as a spiritual duty or just survival. You wonder how spiritual hay feels when it's clinging to your eyelids. You rake, and rake, and rake. Your hands blister. Again. The old ones haven't healed yet. You don't even notice until you see blood on the handle. You tie a strip of cloth around the worst one. It's part of your shirt. You hope no one notices. Then again, everyone's shirt is basically rags at this point. A dog barks in the distance. You look up. It's not yours. It's the Reeves. Of course. He's riding by on horseback, his cloak dry and his boots spotless. He doesn't look at you. But he doesn't have to. His dog does enough glaring for both of them. You keep your head down and your rake moving. Near midday, you sit down under a tree. Not because you're allowed to, but because your body gives you no choice. You pull out your lunch, a small cloth-wrapped lump of barley cake. It's hard, dry, barely food, but it fills the gap. You chew slowly, methodically, like each bite is a chore. You think about the chicken you lost to the court fine. You think about her eggs, about what they could have been. You think about your brother still lying in bed. Quirky detail. Some peasants believed chickens could ward off evil spirits if you whispered your sins to them before dawn. You never tried? Now it's too late. You finish the cake and lean your head against the tree. Just 5 minutes. Then a voice. Hey! You jolt upright. It's Edith, the baker's daughter. She's holding a cloth bundle. Extras, she says, tossing it to you. You open it, half a loaf. Soft. Still warm. You blink. She shrugs and walks off without another word. You sit there, stunned. The bread, real, like the kind the Lord's servants eat. You tear off a piece and put it in your mouth. It tastes like heaven, or what heaven probably tasted like before taxes. You wrap up the rest and tuck it deep into your satchel. You'll share it with your family tonight. A small moment of something good. Work resumes. You rake more. Then the cloud cover breaks, and the sun actually shines for the first time in days. The hay dries faster. The breeze smells faintly of apples. You remember there's a tree behind the church that grows them. They're not ripe yet, but soon. You finish the field just as the bell tolls again. You trudge home. Inside, your brother is awake, pale but better. He sits propped up, trying to eat. He gives you a half smile that nearly breaks you. You hand your mother the bundle from Edith. Her eyes widen. She doesn't ask. She just tears it carefully into 6 pieces. No crumbs wasted. You eat yours slowly, chewing each bite like it's the last one you'll ever get. The fire crackles. Your brother laughs just once at something your sister says. It's the first laugh in the house in days. Outside, the wind picks up. You hear it whistling through the eaves. Then a knock. Everyone freezes. But it's not the Reeve. It's Tom. He holds out a bundle. Inside, wild herbs, some cloth, and a handful of dried berries. He mutters something about his grandmother, and this used to help. You nod. Take it. Thank him. He nods back. No more words. He walks away. You brew the herbs into a tea. Your brother drinks it. He says it tastes like dirt and sadness. You laugh. Just a little. That night, you all sleep closer to the fire, just in case the fever comes back. But it doesn't. You drift off to sleep, with the taste of real bread still on your tongue, and the sound of your brother breathing beside you. And for once, you dream of nothing. Morning arrives without chaos, which already feels suspicious. You open your eyes, and for the first time in days, nothing hurts more than it did yesterday. That's as close to good news as a peasant gets. You sit up slowly, stretch until your spine protests, then check on your brother. Still breathing, still sleeping. You touch his forehead, cooler than before. A win. You toss on your cloak, stiff and still damp from yesterday's work, and step outside. The air smells like ash-damp grass and manure. In other words, normal. Today is market day. That doesn't mean stalls bursting with produce and cheerful bartering. This is a village market. It's 6 carts, 1 elderly man with dubious pickled fish, and a monk trying to swap old books for cheese. Still, it's something to look forward to. You walk toward the square, dodging chickens and ducking under a laundry line. Tom's already there, eyeing a barrel of turnips like it insulted his mother. Edith is selling bread, real bread this time, and you swear she gives you the tiniest nod when she sees you. You brought nothing to sell, nothing left. But your father said to have a look, which means see if anyone's giving something away. At one cart, a woman is offering salted herring for a few coins or an equal trade. You don't have either. So you move on. Another cart sells candles, lumpy homemade things that smell vaguely of tallow and feet. You could use one. You don't take one. At the edge of the square, you see something rare. A peddler. Not a local, but someone passing through. His cart is colorful, mismatched, covered in trinkets and sacks and bundles. He wears a red scarf and a smirk, and he's telling a group of wide-eyed children a story about a horse that could talk. You watch for a while. He pulls out a wooden spoon with a carved handle, so delicate it looks like lace. You've never seen anything like it. Costs a copper, he says. You don't even have half. He shrugs and moves on, showing off a tin whistle, a woolen glove, a tiny mirror. You catch a glimpse of your face in that mirror, sunburned, dirt smudged, tired, but alive. Quirky fact, some peasants believed mirrors could steal your soul. You're not worried. You're pretty sure your soul's already exhausted. The market starts to quiet. People head home. You linger, not because you're shopping, but because for one morning, no one is demanding anything from you. No tools, no rakes, no reeves, just air and space. You eventually wander back toward home. On the way, you pass the church. The bell doesn't ring, but the door is open. Inside, the priest is sweeping. He looks up and gives a tired smile. You nod and step in. Not for confession, not even for prayer. Just to sit, just to not be in the mud. The stone bench is cold. The candlelight flickers. The stained glass throws dim colors onto the floor. Saints in faded blues and reds look down at you with pity or indigestion. Hard to tell. You rest your head against the wall and close your eyes. For just a moment. Historians still argue whether peasants found comfort in religion or simply used it to survive their reality. You suspect both are true. The priest doesn't speak. He lets you be. After a while, you rise and leave. Back home, your brother is awake, hungry. A good sign. Your mother is mixing something in a pot. It smells less bad than usual. You help her stir. The fire is hot. The smoke stings your eyes. But you don't mind. Later that afternoon, the manor herald comes through the village. He's not usually the type to deliver good news. So when he stops in the square and announces something about an upcoming feast day, no one cheers. But a few people raise eyebrows. Apparently, the Lord's family is celebrating a wedding, which means maybe a feast for the village. Meat, ale, leftovers. If you're lucky, you don't count on it, but you do start to dream a little. That night, your father comes home with a sack of barley from a cousin. He says it's a loan. You know it's a gift, but he won't say that. Too proud. You help him pour it into the grain bin. Not full, but fuller than it's been in weeks. Your sister sings, a little while she sweeps. Off key, but still. The room feels warmer tonight. Dinner is better than usual. No bread, but thick porridge and even a chunk of dried apple. You savor every bite. You sit by the fire, watching the flames flicker like sleepy dancers. Your family is still, quiet. Not from fear this time, just tired contentment. You lean back against the wall and breathe. Outside, the wind rustles the thatch. You hear owls, then silence. You sleep. No dreams, just rest. You wake to the smell of smoke and boiling oats. Not ideal, but better than the usual scent of damp straw and goat breath. You blink, stretch, and find that your knees hurt a little less than yesterday. This is how you measure progress now, by how loudly your body protests movement. Your brother is up too, still pale but standing. He sips from a cup of tea, clutching it like it's the Holy Grail. Your mother gives him the last piece of apple from last night. You don't complain. He earned it. You eat a spoonful of oats, watery, overcooked, but warm, and head out. Today, you've been tasked with gathering firewood. This sounds easier than it is. First, the woods are a half-hour's walk away. Second, most of the good wood is already taken either by villagers trying to stay warm or by the Lord's men enforcing forest law, which means technically everything in the woods belongs to the manor. And yet, without firewood, your family freezes. You bring a sack and an old hatchet with a loose handle. You also bring a lie, in case someone catches you. Something about looking for a lost pig. Everyone believes pig stories. Pigs are always running off. You trek past the fields, through the hedgerows, and into the edge of the forest. The trees here are thin and twisted, reaching up like crooked fingers. Moss carpets the trunks. Birds scatter as you approach. You keep your eyes low and your steps quiet. No one's supposed to be here, but you know the spots. The hollows where fallen branches pile up. The places no one patrols. You fill your sack slowly, carefully. Every branch is a minor victory. Then you hear it. Hooves. Not yours. You duck behind a tree and hold your breath. A man rides past, cloaked, hooded, armed. One of the Lord's stewards, probably. He doesn't see you. You wait until the sound fades, then keep working faster. Now, the fear buzzes just beneath your skin, but so does the need to not go home empty-handed. You find a thick branch half buried in leaves and wrestle it free. It's damp, but dry enough to burn. You break it into sections, tuck it into your sack, and wipe your brow. By the time you head back, your shoulders ache, your fingers are numb, and your feet feel like bricks. But the sack is full. You smile. A little. Back in the village, you pass Tom. He's skinning a rabbit. You raise your eyebrows. He shrugs and says, "Traded for it?" You both know he probably didn't. But no one asks questions on days like this. Historians still argue whether medieval villages truly shared resources or simply tolerated mutual desperation. You think the truth lies somewhere between generosity and survival instinct. You drop the firewood by the hearth and start stacking. Your sister claps her hands. She hates cold floors. You let her pick the driest logs to store near the fire. She chooses carefully, like they're gems. Your mother adds a new one to the fire. The flame leaps up in gratitude. The room warms by a few precious degrees. Then someone knocks. You freeze. But it's Edith. She holds a cloth-wrapped bundle. More bread. Not as fresh, but still bread. "You helped me once," she says, looking everywhere but your face. "Now we're even." You nod. She walks off. You close the door and unwrap the loaf. It's small, a little hard, but still it smells like mercy. That night, you eat bread with your stew. The stew is mostly cabbage and old barley, but the bread softens it, makes it real. Your father tells a story about a man who once got caught poaching a deer, and instead of being fined or jailed, he was hired. for his skill. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's obviously made up. But it's nice to imagine a world where ability counts for more than class. You offer a small prayer before bed, not for wealth or even rest, just for no new finds tomorrow. You fall asleep to the sound of the fire cracking, the dog snoring, and your mother humming an old song. You dream of apples, a whole tree of them, within reach. You wake with a sneeze, which in this time and place is more than a nuisance. It's a potential omen. Your grandmother, half asleep in the corner, mutters something about Saint Ethelred and throws a handful of straw in your direction. You thank her politely and hope it was a blessing. It's your turn to fetch water this morning, and the well is not nearby. Nothing in this village is. You wrap your cloak tighter around your shoulders, grab the wooden bucket with the split handle, and set off. The path is slick with frost, and the ruts have frozen into jagged ridges that conspire to break your ankles. The dog follows for a while, then wisely gives up and retreats to the hearth. You envy him. At the well, you lower the bucket carefully. The rope creaks in protest. It was fraying a year ago and hasn't improved with age. The water is cold and dark, and your fingers go numb the second they touch the handle. You haul it up, breath puffing in clouds, and begin the long trudge back. On the way, you pass a group of boys playing king and rebels with sticks and a turnip. You smile, then wince when one of them trips and face plants in a puddle. Peasant childhoods are mostly bruises and mud. Back home, your mother takes the water and immediately sets it to boil. For what you're not sure, maybe tea, maybe laundry, maybe just because warmth makes the room feel less cruel. Today, the manor steward is coming. Not the reeve, the steward. Higher up, silk gloves, clean boots, a face that's never seen dirt under the nails. Why? Because they're doing the yearly assessment, which means someone walks into your home, glances at your possessions, and decides how much more tax you can pay. Spoiler, it's always more. You tidy the house, not for pride, but for self-preservation. A cluttered floor is suspicious. Too little food is pitiful. Too much food is punishable. There is quite literally no correct amount of visible survival. When the steward arrives, you're already standing by the hearth, eyes down. He steps in, flanked by a clerk and a boy holding a book too large for his hands. He glances around, says nothing. The clerk makes notes. They ask how many animals you have. You say 1 cow, 1 pig, 3 chickens. They ask how much grain is stored. You lie. Just a little. They ask about your brother, still weak, lying in the corner. The steward raises an eyebrow. Still working, he asks. You nod quickly. He can sweep. He grunts. They leave. That's it? No thanks, no judgment, no humanity. Just notes in a book that will eventually become a number carved into your life. You exhale only once the door closes. Historians still argue whether feudal tax records were intentionally inflated or simply indifferent to suffering. You think the answer doesn't really matter. The result is the same. Later, your father mutters about hiding the better tools next year. Your mother nods. You wonder how many other families did the same today. You step outside to breathe. The air tastes sharp and clean until someone passes with a cart of manure. You hear singing. Down by the path to the fields, a group of women is beating laundry against rocks and singing an old work song. The rhythm is hypnotic, and the melody shifts in odd looping patterns. You don't know the words, but you hum along anyway. You help gather kindling for the evening fire. The wind picks up. You pull your cloak tighter. Tom walks by with a new rip in his tunic and a grin that says he lost another bet. Probably to Edith. You wave. He waves back. Then slips in the mud. Some things bring joy even here. Back at home, dinner is flat bread and boiled onions. The fire roars a little stronger tonight. Maybe the steward's visit didn't go as badly as you feared. Maybe they pitied your brother. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe. Your grandmother tells a story tonight about a fox that tricked a nobleman into giving him a vineyard. You've heard it before, but you still laugh at the part where the fox pretends to be a ghost. Your brother coughs a little, but he's still smiling. The candle flickers. You stare into the flame and wonder what the steward wrote down. You wonder what you're worth in ink, in grain, in units of debt. You wonder if next year will be better. Then your sister climbs into the bedroll beside you and pulls the blanket up over both your heads. Too many thoughts, she whispers. Go to sleep. You nod. Because for tonight, that's enough. The morning greets you with an icy slap of wind and a pair of missing chickens. You notice immediately because the coop door is swinging open and there's a trail of feathers leading off into the hedge. You groan, tie your boots with twine again, and follow the trail with the grim resignation of someone who already knows how this ends. You find one chicken halfway to the woods. It looks offended, like you interrupted its grand adventure. You scoop it up, muttering under your breath. The second is gone. Probably fox food by now. Your father says nothing when you return with just one bird, but you can feel his disappointment radiating from across the yard like heat from the forge. Still, he doesn't scold. It's not your fault. It's no one's fault. But someone always pays. You secure the coop with extra twine and a large rock. If a fox really wants it, it'll get in anyway. But pretending helps. Then it's time for the manure cart. You sigh. You knew today would come. The cart is old wooden and smells like betrayal. It creaks like it might fall apart with every bump. Your job, take it from one field to another, spreading animal waste along the furrows. You grab a long-handled rake and start the process. Scoop, walk, fling, gag, repeat. The smell is indescribable. A stew of old straw, wet rot, and the lingering regret of every sheep you've ever met. Your boots slip constantly. Your hands blister instantly. And yet you find a rhythm. Scoop, step, spread. It's not glamorous, or pleasant, or tolerable, but it's necessary. Historians still argue whether peasants had a sense of pride in agricultural labor, or whether it was simply endured as inescapable fate. You figure it's possible to feel both. Maybe not at the same time, but in rotation. You finish the first field and start on the next. By midday, you're covered in a fine layer of filth and questioning every decision your ancestors ever made. You pause for a break under a tree. Pull out your bread crust. Gnaw on it. It tastes faintly of manure. You don't ask how. You just chew. Edith passes by. She's carrying a basket of flour and looking impossibly clean. She raises an eyebrow at your condition. Rolling in it for fun, now, she asks. Luxury spa treatment, you reply. She snorts and walks on. Later, you hear shouting. You round the edge of the field and see two men arguing loudly, arms flailing. It's about land. It's always about land. A border dispute. Whose furrow is whose? You stay out of it. You don't even own your own fingernails, let alone property. But the argument gets louder. A shove. A scuffle. Then the reeve arrives on horseback. He doesn't ask questions. He finds both men, then rides off. You shovel another load onto the cart. The sun dips lower. The cart creaks louder. The wheel gives out halfway home. You stare at it, then at the sky, then at the wheel again. You laugh, just once. Then you shoulder the harness and drag the cart yourself. The journey home feels endless. Your hands are raw. Your knees buckle. But you make it. You collapse by the hut, every muscle vibrating with exhaustion. Your mother hands you a damp cloth. You wipe your face, then throw it on the dog, who immediately runs off. Dinner is lentils and herbs. You eat slowly, grateful for flavor, any flavor. Your brother is sitting up now, reading aloud from a scrap of an old book the priest gave him. You can't follow the story, but his voice is steady, comforting. You glance at the door. Your father's boots are still muddy from today's work. Your mother's hands are red from scrubbing. Your sister is asleep in the corner, hugging a rock she thinks is lucky. You lean against the wall and close your eyes, just for a second. The fire crackles. The wind whistles outside. The missing chicken never returns. You say a quiet goodbye to it. You name it lunch that could have been. You wake before the bell, not from noise, but from cold. The fire's gone out. Again. You reach toward it, half hoping a few embers still smolder, but your fingers find only ash. Your breath fogs the air in front of you. The floor is hard. Your blanket's twisted. And the dog has taken up most of your straw mat. You nudge him. He growls. You apologize. It's too early for arguments. You rise. Slowly, wrap your cloak tight and begin the ritual of warming the hearth. A little dried grass, a few twigs, your breath blown gently through cracked lips. It takes 3 tries. But eventually, the fire crackles to life. You hold your hands over the flame, savoring each moment of warmth like it's borrowed gold. Today is a quiet day, not a rest day. There's no such thing. But no assigned manor labor, no tax collector lurking, no reeve galloping through the mud. A space between burdens. You start by repairing the fence along the west field. It leans like it's ashamed of itself. You pull it upright, hammer in new stakes, and tighten the twine. It's not pretty, but it holds. Next, you gather eggs 2 miraculously. 1 warm, 1 cracked. You keep both. Your brother joins you near midday. He's pale but upright, and that's more than enough. He helps dig a shallow trench behind the hut for drainage. It fills with water almost immediately. He grins. You do too. After lunch, more broth, less water. This time, you sit beneath the old elm and mend your tunic. The rip along the sleeve is wide enough to fit a chicken through. You stitch slowly, watching clouds shift across the sky. One looks like a bear. One looks like a turnip. Most just look like clouds. Edith passes with her basket slower than usual. She doesn't speak, just nods. You nod back. Later, you help your father haul stones for the village wall. You're not sure why it matters. No one attacks your village. But maybe that's the point. You wonder if walls protect more than land. Maybe they protect the idea that you matter. Historians still argue whether communal building projects gave peasants a sense of pride or simply more work. You feel something in your chest, pride perhaps, or just a sore muscle. Hard to say. Back home, your mother is baking something. Bread. The scent is soft, sweet, unbelievable. She saved flour from last week, hid it just in case. You set the table, wooden boards, mismatched cups, one bent spoon, and sit. The bread is dense, warm, and miraculous. No stew tonight, no broth, just bread salt and the strange joy of chewing something that doesn't taste like boiling water. You eat slowly, reverently. Your brother tells a joke. It's bad. You laugh anyway. Then your grandmother, eyes closed, smile, faint, starts singing a hymn. Her voice is papery and thin, but it carries. You all listen. Even the dog. The fire burns bright. You sit by it after dinner, watching the sparks rise like stars. Your sister falls asleep with her head on your knee. Your father hums along with the tune still echoing in the air. Your mother leans back and closes her eyes. The world feels still. Not easy. Never easy. But still. You lie down beside your brother and pull the blanket over both of you. The night is cold, but you are not. And for once, you fall asleep with a full belly, a warm hearth, and no fear scratching at the door. No taxes due, no grain missing, no footsteps in the dark, just the soft sound of breathing, the scent of bread lingering in the air, and the tiny fragile idea that tomorrow might not be worse than today. You smile and drift. The fire crackles gently now, low and comforting. Its light dances across the walls, throwing shadows that no longer look like threats, but like echoes of all that's been endured and survived. Outside, the wind hums through the trees, but it no longer bites. It whispers. The night doesn't feel like an enemy anymore, just another piece of the world that turns slowly, quietly, even here. You shift in your sleep, curl a little closer to the fire's warmth, to the rhythmic breath of your family, resting nearby. The straw under you creaks softly, like it's sighing with you. You've done enough for today. More than enough. The aches in your hands, your back, your feet, they're still there. But they've softened, muted, the kind of pain you can carry with your eyes closed. Because tomorrow there will be fields again. There will be stones to lift pots, to scrub chickens, to chase. But tomorrow isn't here yet. Now there's nothing left to do. Nothing but rest. You let your breath slow. Let the last thoughts fade. Let your mind drift like smoke toward nothing. The village, the work, the cold, all of it fades behind a curtain of sleep. And in this moment, just this one, you are not a peasant. You are not hungry. You are not cold. You are simply still. And as the stars blink above your thatched roof, and the last log crumbles into ember, sleep takes you and keeps you for the night.